People have to realize that in order to get more and to be more, we have to demand more of our leaders, political, business, community, but also of ourselves. We have to understand that the time for top-down leadership in which a single president, prime minister, pope, queen, emperor, what have you, can make the kinds of decisions that are going to bring our world to a better place is long gone, unless they have the support of millions upon millions of individuals who understand their role as citizens, as connected within their world, as connected within their role as parents, as children, as workers, as employers, as employees, as volunteers. People understand that the way to build a country is only together. And to spend all our time pointing fingers at why the other person's wrong without saying we can be right is what we need to do. You know, in the past election, in the past number of elections, the cynicism around politics won out because people found it much easier to vote against things than vote for things. It's easier to vote against a political party you don't like than to say, yeah, I'm voting for these guys because they really get it. We're trying to pick the least worst of all the political parties. And in the last election, it was just, you know what? Somebody give us a majority so we don't have to go back to the polls and hear your whining every 18 months. That was the message of the last election. Mr. Harper talks about a strong mandate, but that's not what it was. It was cynicism. It was people being fed up. It was people voting against politicians in general. So people park themselves on the left and vote against those reactionary capitalists of the right. Or they park themselves on the right and vote against those scary socialist hippies of the left. But that's not where Canadians are. We're not polarized people. We're not a people who highlight differences. We're a people who understand compromise, who understand best practices, who understand leaning on each other and figure things out and leaving everyone sort of grumbling but eventually satisfied. This is a country that doesn't glorify life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness nearly as much as we glorify the boring tenets of peace, order, and good government. We don't even put it on any of our coins because it's not particularly exciting. But the idea is we trudge through. We do the hard work. And Canada earned its way into a place of respect in the 20th century. A country that people could turn to. A country that stepped up. And people talk about the military these days and they say, oh, we're a country of peacekeepers. It's not entirely true, you know. The only reason we had any capacity to have the weight to throw around peacekeepers as a role at the UN was because Canadians had shown time and time again that we have a capacity to step up and fight far above our weight class. In the trenches of World War I or on the beaches of World War II, and in subsequent conflicts, Canadians stepped up and we defined ourselves. You know, a few years from now, in 2017, we're going to be celebrating the 150th anniversary of Confederation, which is a very exciting moment. And we're going to have to ask ourselves big questions about what it is we want to be showcasing to the world, what kind of country we want to be in 2017. But while we're celebrating the 150th anniversary of Confederation, we have to understand that we're not really celebrating 150 years since we've become a real country. I mean, in one sense, you can go back 300, 400 years to all the founding elements of Canada. But in another sense, you have to come forward and realize in 2017, we'll just be celebrating really only 100 years since we actually became a country. Because we didn't become a country, not really, in the way we define a country now. It's a place where we belong together, where we stand together, where we fight together. Until 1917 at a place called Vimy Ridge, where the entire Canadian forces were pulled together and set to an impossible task. And in the blood, and the chaos, and the bullets, and the loss, somehow an identity that was Canadian, not British, not French, not of the many immigrant groups that already began to make up our Canadian forces at that point, but an identity unto ourselves that knew that we were the types of people who would leave the safety of our land to stand up and fight and risk everything for far-off ideals, for values and for principles that we believed in. And through the 20th century, the fight that Canada was most involved in was not necessarily a military one. It was a fight for rights. Through the suffragette movement, giving women the vote, to the fight against Nazism and respect for all peoples, to the civil rights movement in the States that flowed up to Canada, to the achievement of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms within our Constitution that has become a model for constitutions around the world in these past decades, to the continuing fight as we brought in greater measures of equality and respect for all. The 20th century was the century of figuring out, fighting, and achieving the fact that every single human being has basic, inalienable rights that we now recognize and fight for. And we've largely achieved that. But the next step, the next level of that fight, the one that Canada needs to be part of for the 21st century, is recognizing that each and every individual, on top of having basic inalienable rights, has a fundamental value that cannot be ignored. Regardless of where you were born, regardless of how much money your family had, regardless of the opportunities or the challenges you faced throughout your life, be it physical challenges, intellectual challenges, family challenges, or any number of challenges, you have value. You have something to contribute to the world around you, to the community around you, to your group of friends and colleagues. Human beings are social animals. We have one core need. We need to feel like we are important to the people who matter to us. We need to have relevance. We need to have value to our tribe, however we define that tribe to be. Our capacity to demonstrate that has long time been indicated by the amount of money we have, the amount of material goods we accumulate, and those can be indicators of the authority we wield, indicators of our importance to our community. But next time you walk through a supermarket, take a look at the checkout stand and all those gossip magazines and tabloids, and you'll see a lot of people who have a lot of money and a lot of fame who are absolutely miserable because they feel fundamentally worthless. And we have to understand that the strength and the meaning that we derive in our world comes through our sense of connection to each other and our sense of belonging to a community to which we have the capacity to contribute and make better. And the way we move forward as a country that values individuals, that values their connection to their community, that offers opportunities for young people to go to school, to seniors to be connected and meaningful in sharing their wisdom and experience with our young people. To people to learn and retrain and learn new skills and trades and be flexible and continue to contribute to the highest possible level of their dreams and aspirations. That's the country we want to be. And it won't happen as long as people are telling us how small we are or how worrisome that group that lives across town is or those people who live across the country are. It won't happen until we begin to understand what we collectively as Canadians are capable of. Because once we collectively understand our opportunities, living in a country filled with gorgeous natural resources that the world wants, but understanding that the greatest resource we have is our human resources. People who are forward-thinking, value-driven, open to their neighbors. As soon as we realize the opportunity we have as a country, we have to understand that that opportunity is also a responsibility. And we have to be more. We have to stop allowing people to divide us. We have to stop thinking the worst of the people we choose to represent us. We have to start demanding more. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited about the opportunities facing the Liberal Party over the next 3 years. I am so excited to be part of a party that refuses to say one thing in one corner of a country and another thing in another corner of the country. That refuses to pick sides. That chooses instead to have a grown-up conversation about tough choices we have to make, but making them in the right way and with the right things in our hearts. I choose to be part of a party that understands that the greatness of this land is reflected in every single individual. And that as a planet and a species, if a country like Canada and people like Canadians can't figure out how to balance energy, economy, technology, environment, health, education, justice, fairness, equality, compassion, then please tell me which country will. It's on us. It's on us to expect more. It's on us to demand more. It's on us to be more. And over the next 3 years, we're going to need to start doing that. Because come 2015, people will once again try to scare us into voting against things. And Canadians need to stand up clearly and proudly and say, we're better than this. We deserve more than this. And we're going to get more than this. That's what the Liberal Party of Canada has always believed. That's what the Liberal Party of Canada will continue to struggle to achieve. And with all your help, that's the Canada we're going to build together. Merci beaucoup, mes amis.